Hello, this is Andrew Collins here, coming at you to tell you that on August the 12th to 13th this year, I will be appearing at the Gaiasphere Ancient Civilizations Conference that is going to be held at Boulder, Colorado. I'm appearing alongside a host of other great speakers, including Randall Carson and Erich von Däniken, William Henry, Gregg Braden, Freddy Silva, Maria Wheatley, and many other big names in this subject. So from my own point of view, I shall be talking about the idea that aliens, UFOs, UAP are not simply a case of nuts and bolts spaceships coming down here with flesh and blood aliens and doing their thing, something which has been happening since the Roswell crash of 1947. I shall be showing that through my own 4 decades worth of research into the UFO phenomena, that we are dealing with something that is far, far more complex than that. Something that almost certainly involves non-human intelligences, but intelligences that I would suggest are almost certainly outside of normal space-time. And that they exist normally in a multidimensional realm. And essentially, I think that they probably don't even need flesh and blood bodies. I think that they can interact with us in whatever way they see fit, or whatever our minds tell them that we want to perceive them as. And I think this is something that's been going on for not just, since the Roswell crash of 1947, but it's been going on for hundreds, if not many, many thousands of years. And in my book, Origins of the Gods, co-authored with Greg Little and with a foreword by Erich von Däniken, who will be one of the main speakers at this event. I show how almost certainly our interaction with this phenomena has been going on since at least 400,000 years ago. I talk all about the incredibly intelligent inhabitants of a place called the Kesem Cave, which is located outside of Tel Aviv, and how very close to it is a holy mountain known as Mount Gerizim, that has been producing strange light phenomena since the Bronze Age, certainly according to biblical tradition, and these lights are still seen there today. And the peoples of the Kesem Cave would actually go to this mountain to procure the raw material that they would use to create their tools. And despite the fact that there were, materials all the way around that they could have used, and indeed they did use, but they would specifically go to this mountain. And the fact that they suddenly accelerated in their inventions and what they were doing, very, very quickly, to me suggests that they may well have had a special relationship, not just with this mountain, but also the activities associated with it, which I would assume to be related to the appearance of mysterious light phenomena, and possibly the intelligences, the sentience associated with them. So, as I said, we're dealing with something that is not as easy as nuts and bolts spacecraft, which, occasionally crash on this planet. And although this is something which is incredibly topical at the moment, with the US hearing just yesterday, the Congress talking about the fact that, we have material evidence of, crashed non-terrestrial craft, which, in my opinion, is an incredible possibility, but one that I think that should always be taken not just with a pinch of salt, but with the knowledge that it could very easily be based on disinformation, particularly at a time in human history where, we are being told to focus on certain things and ignore certain other matters of huge priority to the future of humanity. So it is obviously very convenient that all of this UFO stuff is coming out now, when it's clearly been around and clearly been a topic of importance, within the US government and obviously elsewhere in other governments around the world for at least 80 years. That it's strange that it's all coming out now. But, I will be the first one to rejoice if absolute evidence is given of downed sources, from the Roswell crash onwards. But I think you should also remember that in the 1950s, certain UFO books were written with disinformation in them relating to crash sources, particularly those written by Gerald Heard. This is something that came out much later that was definitely propaganda to try and give out the message to the Soviets that the Americas had technology that they didn't, and that they clearly were back engineering it and would be using it if necessary as part of the Cold War activities and any possible confrontations that would follow that if anything actually happened. And so I would bear all of this in mind as you're absorbing all of this new information relating to crash sources and material evidence. I mean, don't get me wrong, UFOs can be physical, and they have been manifesting, particularly out of what I would see as plasma environments for, presumably since the beginning. And so structured craft exists, but what they're actually made of and what they represent is another matter. If you go back to the 1950s, books like Flying Saucers by Jung, for instance, he admitted that this phenomena was real. There's absolutely no doubt about that. But that was it being molded by the collective unconscious or the collective consciousness, of the world into what we presume it to be. In other words, technological, craft that are coming from another world that is in some way responding to the crisis, the situation in the world as it was during the 1950s, particularly with the Cold War and particularly after the atomic bombs and obviously the space race that was going on at this time. And this is what Carl Jung talks about in his book. And I think that all of this just should be borne in mind when we think about the UFO phenomena. I mean, it's all good. It's all very exciting. And I follow, the news, almost every day to find out the new discoveries. And as I said, I'll be the first to rejoice if actual evidence comes out of, material that has been collected from, UFO crashes or whatever. But just be careful of what you believe. So anyway, that's probably it. I won't go go on too long. So that's what I'm going to be talking about in my lecture at Gaiasphere. Beyond that, with my other hat on, which is to do with the origins of civilization at places like Karahan Tepe, Göbekli Tepe, and now this new site, Sayburge, brand new video just come out from Megalithomania, interview between myself and Hugh Newman about this site called Sayburge and the carved in imagery there that almost certainly shows the earliest evidence of bull leaping anywhere in the world. And this is 9,500 BC. It's there on the wall. almost 7,000 years before ball leaping appears again in Bronze Age Minoan Crete. So look out for that. The links are there. I've put it out on social media. And the other thing, of course, is Egypt. My book, the first female pharaoh, Sobek Nefru, Goddess of the Seven Stars, is now out all over the world. It is the first biography of Egypt's first female monarch, her entire story, and how she became a modern pop icon, basically in the end of the 19th century, beginning of the 20th century, when Bram Stoker wrote his Egyptian novel, The Jewel of Seven Stars, which featured Sobek Neferu as the main antagonist in the book. And of course, from that book, various blockbuster movies have used this storyline in their, in their films, including 2017's The Mummy, starring Tom Cruise, and 1980's The Awakening, starring Charlton Heston. So check out all of this. This is the first live stream I've actually done. I hope it comes across all right, and I'll see you again. Okay, all the best. And if you like this sort of stuff, give it a like and do subscribe to my channel. Okay, this is Andrew Collins out.